Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and create a vanilla progressive walk cycle based off of the information in the walk mechanics PDF that I have uploaded to Canvas. So to get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is download the progressive walk project directory, uncompress it, and save it to your desktop or to your hard drive. From there, you're going to want to launch Maya and then go File, Set Project, and set your project to the Progressive Walk project. So I'll do that right now. Go over here and I'll say Set. Once we've got our scene file loaded, the next thing you're going to want to do is personalize it and make it yours. So I want you to go ahead and say File, Save Scene As, and instead of saying Setup, let's add our name. So for me, I will say Progressive Walk Gale version 01, and I'll save that out. So now that I've got that saved, let's talk a little bit about what we want to have displayed in our viewport. So I'm going to go ahead and here I want to, for the window that I'm going to be shooting out from, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and lock the camera by hitting this button right here, which will mean that I can't make any manipulation to the camera that I will be shooting my play blast from. The other thing is I don't really want to see anything at all over here. I don't have an image plane, so we can actually check this off. I don't have a GPU cache in here, so we can check that off. All we really need to see are polygons. And go ahead and turn your grid off as well. Over here in the window that we'll be manipulating our character in, I would like to see the NURBS curves. I don't need to see NURBS surfaces, and I want to see polygons. Everything else can be turned off, especially that grid. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, what I want us to do is, because we're going to do this with just Maya native tools so that we can get used to and understand the channels that we are actually animating. So what I want us to do is come over here to the gear next to our shelf. I'm going to hit this and we're going to create a new shelf. I'm going to call this progressive. Okay, so the first thing I want to do to save on this shelf is I want to select all the controls on my character. Actually, the first thing I want to do is make a mask button. So typically when you open up your shot, you'll have here, if this might be this might be a collapse for you. Make sure you open it up. These are your selection masks. Every time you open your shot, all of these will be on. But we don't want them all to be on because we don't want to be selecting things like objects or the mesh of our character or lights and setting keys on those. Because we're animating, we really only want to set keys on the controls of our character. And those are always NURBS curves, or at least for this particular character, they are NURBS curves. So I only want to be able to select NURBS curves. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all my objects off. I'm going to select curves, and I'm going to come down here and say Save to Shelf. And there I've got my mask button. And that's the first thing I hit when I open up my scene file. So let's see this again. All right, so now we want to create, the first thing we want to do is we want to hide the upper body. So on this main control, this main global control, we have some display options over here. So what I want to do is turn the torso, neck, and head off. So I'm going to turn these to 0. And then I'm going to turn the arms off. And now we only have the lower half of the body. And that's all we're going to concentrate on animating for this particular exercise. So now that I have that, I am going to, actually, let's take a step back. Let's turn all of this back on. Okay, before we, so the next button that we're going to want to make is a button that sets a key on all of our controls. So I'm going to go ahead and marquee select all the controls on my character by dragging a box over all of the curves. So now that I have that, I'm going to come down here to our script editor, down here in the lower right hand corner. I'm going to open that up. And you can see this last thing that I did, that's what I did. I selected all the controls. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this entire row. And then I'm going to take my middle mouse button while this is highlighted, and I'm going to drag it up here to my shelf and then let go. And it's a Mel script. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click. I'm going to say edit. And I'm going to go to shelves. It's the last thing highlighted. So I'm going to label it all and then save to shelves. Okay. So we're going to create a few more buttons. But before we do that, let's go ahead and hide the upper body, because in this assignment, all we're going to do is animate the legs and the hips of our character. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this. And over here, you'll see there's a bunch of display options, these channels here. So if I take the torso, neck, and head and turn these to 0, we hide those. Let's hide the arms and the hands by also making these 0. And so now all we have highlighted are our hips and our legs, and that's what we're going to animate. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my all button, and I'm going to set a key here. Whenever we create one of our main poses, we're going to set a key on all the controls. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to create a button that selects my cog, right, or my upper body control. So I've just selected my upper body control, and I'm going to come down here to my script editor and go down to the bottom. I'm going to highlight that last thing. I'm going to, whoops, and a middle mouse button, and I'm going to drag it up here to our shelf. Make this a little bit closer, a bit smaller. And actually, let's go ahead and make this a little bit neater. I'm going to go ahead and clear all of this. Click off. I'm going to click on my cog again, so now we can see that last thing. I'm going to highlight it, and then middle mouse button, drag it up here. It's a Mel button. Right click, edit, shelves, and this is my cog. Okay, we can clear this again. The next thing I want to select is the hips, because this pelvis control is really essential, and we'll be animating it. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, middle mouse button, drag it up here. It's a Mel button. Right click, edit, shelves. This is hips. Now I'm going to select all the controls on the left leg, because we'll be manipulating these controls, but sometimes when you're animating, you want to create groups or sort of a palette of controls that are all of one thing, like all the controls for one particular limb. So let's do that now. I'm going to start with the left side by selecting this hip clavicle up here. I'm going to select the knee, the toe. Sorry. Let me do that again. So I'm going to start up here with the knee clavicle. With the hip clavicle. I'm going to start up here with the hip clavicle. I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to go down the leg and select the leg IK last. So now I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of these. And then I'll take my middle mouse button, holding my middle mouse button down. I'm going to drag it up to my shelf. It's a Mel button. I'll come up here and right click, say edit, go to shelves, and this is the left leg. Save all shelves. So let's clear this so it's a little bit cleaner. Let's do the same thing for the right. So again, I'm going to try and select it in the same order. Hip clavicle, knee, and then I'm going to select the leg IK last. I'll highlight all of these. I'll hold my middle mouse button down, drag it up to the shelf. It's a Mel button. I'll right click, I'll say edit, I'll go to shelves, and this is my right leg. Save all shelves. So now we have our selection sets that we're going to want to use for creating our progressive walk cycle. Next step is to start posing our character.